there's nothing they'll hesitate to do. And when you, as a player, are faced with this enemy, you have to choose: are you going to fight fire with fire? Are you going to use their tactics against them to win?
It's just so satisfying. Go in and all guns blazing. To go in and clear a room with grenades, clear a room with fire bombs and sticky grenades, and get the stuff done through just superior firepower.
See what of all the different classes. Now, when we decided, okay, we need at least two nice complete story for the Jedi and two for the Sith, we had to do the whole package. We had to develop classes that actually match the story.
Strike fear to the hearts of their enemies, leave a trail of destruction and terror in their path. The warrior doesn't negotiate, he knows what he wants, and he finds the most direct and confrontational path to getting it. The Sith Inquisitor's story is more about the politics of the Empire and the dark secrets of the Force. The search for arcane relics that allow the Inquisitor to access new levels of power. And we explore what it is that makes someone crave such power.
It can also be just a purely very aggressive class. Inquisitors, if he specialized in melee, would be a very devious, controlling survivability. Or you could play it from the relative safety of distance and using mostly lightning as a long-range attack. And as such, your experience is going to be unparalleled.
There's a lot of gangland violence, which we're going to cause. Now, obviously, the bounty hunter is a ranged class. He has a blaster at his side. He also has some rockets. The idea here is to make sure that your combat is as iconic as the story that you're playing through. So you have rockets, you have a blaster, you have some gadgets at your disposal. So you can stun someone with a quick dart there, and then if you get up close, even though you prefer range, you take care of it the way a bounty hunter would, with a really nice flamethrower. Now notice you're taking on multiple enemies at once. We want to make sure that the combat feels heroic from the beginning. You're going to be taking on 2, 3, sometimes 4 enemies at once. Again, you need to feel like a Star Wars hero from the beginning. Let's see if we can take on these last 2 guys here. Open up with a nice stun dart, and take him out with a flamethrower. Well, there you have it, folks. That is the Bounty Hunter class on the planet Hutta.
Our Smuggler class. Obviously, the Smuggler represents the Han Solo fantasy in the Star Wars universe. And our Smuggler begins on the world of Ord Mantell. Now, Ord Mantell is a war-torn world in the Star Wars universe where the Republic is duking it out with some separatists, and your mission as a smuggler is to run guns to the Republic side to help them out, should you choose to accept. Now, in thinking about what we could do with gameplay to make this class unique, we had to think about what Han Solo does in the movies. So what does he typically do? Well, normally he's running down hallways, firing over his shoulder, or perhaps he is shooting around a corner. So here you're looking at our first ever cover mechanic in an MMO. You can see there are some green indicators in the world which tell the player where they can take cover, and you can see that our player character is able to switch between cover points as well as they fire upon the enemy. You may also notice that there's a green indicator above their enemy's head that tells us that we have a defensive bonus against that enemy. As we go into a cover a second time here, you may want to watch the quick slot bar at the bottom of your screen, and you'll notice that we have a different set of abilities whether we are in cover or out of cover. And a nice use of the flashbang grenade there, a little bit of crowd control for the smuggler, a good way for him to take on multiple enemies. Again, the game is all about heroic combat. And that is a quick look at our barrage ability. The smuggler is able to fire off a whole plethora of blaster bolts at once to take on enemies. But of course, even the smuggler has to be able to deal with enemies up close and personal, so let's see what he has at his disposal here.
Some chlor slugs and some tomb looters. So we're going to see what you do as a melee class here. Again, in keeping with what we've said before, we want to make sure that your gameplay experience, your combat, feels as iconic, as much like a Sith warrior as possible. So you have that force charge move. You can get in very close very quickly, and then you can finish people off pretty darn effectively, especially when you have your lightsaber. But now, of course, you're not always going to be taking on melee combatants. Sometimes you're going to take on some NPCs, people who have the ability to shoot from ranged. We wanted to show how you can handle that. First, a quick look at the inside of this tomb here. The tomb of Ajunta Paul on the planet Korriban. So there are a couple of humanoids ahead. Let's see how we can take them on. Nice to notice that your enemies do take cover. Notice also that you have an ability to deflect some of those blaster bolts. Very nice. And that's your first glimpse of the Sith Warrior class.